Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros 14 large screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Hey, Howard, what you doing up there?
Listen to this story about Swampy Jack and the Swamp Ape. You know, the Florida Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah, like Abominable Snowman at the Old Miracle Strip Amusement Park.
No, Clyde, like the Florida Bigfoot. They call it a Swamp Ape.
Right. Swampy Jack's One-Go Adventure in PCB has a ride called a Swamp Ape, like the Abominable Snowman, only turbocharged.
No, I'm listening to a story on YouTube about Swampy Jack and the Swamp Ape.
Right, Swampy Jack. That's his story and the reason he built his Swamp Ape ride.
Man, I love that Abominable Snowman. What was the song I used to ask for?
I remember you like Kickstart My Heart.
Yeah, that's it. What say we go to Swampy Jack's in Panama City and give it a whirl?
I hear he's got a mostly tame swamp ape there.
Oh, come on. You can't catch them, much less tame them. Why, they're the hide-and-seek world champion.
Swampy Jack's One-Go Adventure, 284 Powell Adams Road, Panama City Beach.
What does it take to live an uncommon life? Here's former Super Bowl winning coach Tony Dungy with today's uncommon moment.
It was more than 20 years ago that Nike created a huge advertising campaign around 3 words: just do it. I have to admit, it was pure genius. With that in mind, we probably will never feel ready to go and share the Word of God, but God wants us to just do it. We may be afraid to make a mistake and turn someone off, or be embarrassed that we might not have all the right words, experiences, or scripture references. But God is much bigger than all our inadequacies and mistakes. He simply wants our hearts ready and willing to share with others what He has done for us.
Tony Dungy, author of the popular Uncommon book series. More at CoachDungy.com. That's CoachDungy.com.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Welcome to the house. It's time for the Afternoon Underdogs.
It's happening.
Wow.
It's on right now.
Opinionated and unfiltered. The hot takes, the rants, and the sports talk you crave.
Give it to me.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And what is going on, Bay County? Brian Haddad sitting in this afternoon for David Hayes. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. David will be back with us tomorrow. Just wasn't feeling up to it today, but I'm going to hold down the fort. You know, the saying is when the adults are away, the kids will play, but that doesn't really work here because I've got many, many years on David. But I will do my best to hold down the fort today. Big Bad James manning the board for me today. How are we doing in there this
Doing
afternoon?
great today, Brian. How goes it? How was the Father's Day weekend?
It was very good. Actually, I made sure and called my dad, Fred, who is 78 years old, living over in Mobile, Alabama. He got to watch some golf, which we'll definitely get into that. What an exciting finish to the U.S. Open. I mean, not if you had money on Rory McIlroy. It was exciting for a different reason, but Bryson DeChambeau claiming his second U.S. Open title over the weekend. We had College World Series. We had all kind of great sporting events. In fact, just right as we were coming on the air, Florida gets the victory over NC State. Another one-run game. Brandon Neely throws about 40, 45 pitches to close it out, strikes out the first 2 in the bottom of the 9th, and then gets the final batter to hit a nice long line out to left field. So the Gators advance forward. They will play, the loser of the Texas A&M Kentucky game which will go off later tonight. And NC State is eliminated. Now, both teams that have been eliminated are from the ACC. Of course, I really hope no one was listening to me and put any bets down, James, because last week on the show, I said that the team that impressed me that I might be looking to go along with was Virginia, and all they did was got eliminated first. So
yeah, it's double a loss elimination tournament, and they didn't bother getting the win. So you got to at least win one to move on.
That's right.
You got to lose two to go home, but you got to win one to move on.
Well, and that first game was so critical, and we had 4 one-run games to open the College World Series. I mean, we talked about this was going to be a wide open College World Series, and boy, it showed that. And, you know, when you drop that first game, you were really behind the 8 ball for the rest of the tournament. But great win for the Gators. They will be moving on. We're going to talk a lot more about the College World Series and a whole lot else today on the show. We're going to get into your best and worst from the weekend here in just a moment, go through some headlines. At 4:20, we're going to have R.J. Starcevich to talk to us everything about NASCAR and the race up there in Iowa over the weekend. 4:40, we're going to cover more headlines, kind of go just around the sports world with things. At 5, one of my favorite segments for sure, we get to talk to our good buddy Steve Barnes from therebelwalk.com. We're going to talk about a whole host of things, some Ole Miss, some College World Series, just some general thoughts on the sports world with Steve. That's always a great time. At 5:20, we're going to have the PCB Hobby Takeover, not with Todd today. Todd is actually on the way back from a big comic convention, but Julia, the communications director over at PCB Hobby, who's been in a couple of times with us, she's going to be joining us today at 5:20 to talk about everything in the hobby and collectibles world. And then at 5:40, we did an hour solid on Friday with these guys. We're going to have Monty and the Pharaoh back in to talk about WWE Clash at the Castle, the results, how there wasn't a riot in Scotland after the final result, I'll never know, but you have to wait till 5:40 because we're going to talk about that. But it was quite the event as well, and I know we have a lot of wrestling fans out there, so that should be an absolutely great segment. Also wanted to get in here, of course, you know, we've been talking about it for weeks, the 7-year send-off here at ESPN Northwest Florida. Of course, it's hard to believe it's been 7 years. But we sent, we did drawings to see who could win tickets to the Atlanta Braves versus the Toronto Blue Jays. I want to say it's on like September the 8th. And, you know, so just another great event that we did here at the station, and wanted to congratulate Drew Gearhart, who has won the all-inclusive trip to experience the Atlanta Braves and the Blue Jays. It's actually Saturday, September 7th, so I missed that by one day. Make sure you're listening, Drew. Go the right day. But it includes hotel, spending cash, food and beverage at the game, amazing seats at the Xfinity Club. Folks, when you win something from ESPN Northwest Florida, it is always top-notch. So definitely want to thank our sponsors who put that on: PCB Hobby, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas, and the Home 2 Suites. And by the way, we're not done giving things away here.
That
at
is
ESPN
correct.
Northwest Florida. We're going to be giving away more tickets to future Atlanta Braves games. In fact, stay listening to this show this week, because we're going to have more information and other chances for you to go experience the Atlanta Braves right here from ESPN Northwest Florida. So let's get into a few headlines first. Make sure you send in your best and worst of the weekend. If you'd like to give us a call and talk to us about anything that went on over the weekend in the sports world, you can always do that at 850-215-6290. That is 215-6290. You can always text in your best and worst over the weekend or submit them through our Facebook page. We'd love to read those out over the air. I'm going to give mine, and James will give his just a little bit later on. But let's start with this, James. This is an interesting one. Former LSU football coach Les Miles is suing the school for vacating wins in response to an NCAA infractions case. Now, the reason that's such a big deal to Miles, because normally people say, who cares if they vacate the wins? Well, Les does, because this drops Les Miles below the threshold needed for College Football Hall of Fame qualification, which, if we're talking about it honestly, I've never liked that qualification because I don't think it's a true measure of a coach. Because you could be doing a wonderful job at a very small school, and you have to earn wins a lot different than you do in other places. But it's one of the reasons Mike Leach currently is not eligible, who, of course, tragically passed away before last year. He's not eligible, and there's actually a big push to change the rules to allow Mike Leach to get in. But what are your thoughts on this lawsuit here?
My thoughts on the lawsuit there for Les Miles is because this does mean money to Les Miles.
Sure.
He gets to put that HOF after his name, and people will pay you a lot more money to hold speaking conventions and sign books and autographs and everything like that. So it's a huge deal for him, just for the lawsuit aspect of it, because, well, he's got to make up money for it somehow because he's about to lose a bundle. But in terms of just having set arbitrary numbers to get into a Hall of Fame never has made a whole lot of sense to me because, much like everything else in this world, sports evolve. How we coach sports, how we play sports, how just, like I said, how we play sports is even different. We didn't have the forward pass 100 years ago, and look where we are now. We have a spread formation. Miles was great, man. Les Miles was a good coach, was a great coach. Yes, wins got vacated. His problem, not his problem. We can discuss that. But in order for him to not be in the Hall of Fame because he is 3/1000th of a percentage off, come on, man.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because, look, Les Miles, in the pantheon of cheating in college football, Les Miles is not on that list. I mean, I'm sure there were little violations here and there, and, schools decide to vacate things and whatever in order for the NCAA to feel like they've done something and not levy harsher penalties. I know why the schools do it. The thing that Les Miles has going against him is there have been like some claims of infidelity and different things with, maybe, seeking, I mean, they weren't underage, but very young women who might have been students at the time. There were a lot of that stuff going on. So, could you argue Les Miles is a dirtbag? Yeah, maybe. Is he a Hall of Fame college football coach? Yeah, I think he is. And so, I'm with you, and your point about arbitrary numbers is excellent because it used to be the hardest Hall of Fame in the world to make was the LPGA. Because back in the early days of the LPGA, there weren't that many players. And so what they established was 30 wins. Now, that's an unbelievably difficult threshold to cross. I mean, when you think about it, the most wins in PGA Tour history is, 82? I think Sam Snead, or 83. So, I mean, 30 is tough. There's not a lot of and what happened was as the game grew and evolved, to your words, a lot more players were winning, thus making it that much more difficult. So the LPGA did adjust their entry a little. 30 is still an automatic qualifier, but it's not the only qualifier. I think college football should do the same because there are going to be cases like Mike Leach, who I think universally people feel like should be in the Hall of Fame. Not because he died. I think people would have said the same thing with him, when he was still alive. But he has not met that threshold, and it's just ridiculous. That's not the true measure of a Hall of Fame coach.
I mean, when you talk about baseball, basketball, any of them, we throw out numbers for Hall of Famers.
Right.
But they aren't a required number for any of these things, other than, yes, they played the sport. Now, that is a requirement. That's probably still needs to be a requirement. But,
well, I don't know. They all have contributor wings, too.
They do. Well, and that is a good portion of the sport because if nobody writes about the sport, if nobody talks about the sport, if you don't go to the sport, you don't know what happened. So broadcasting it out there is an important aspect to the sport. And I always kind of felt weird about it. Like, hey, you're in the Hall of Fame, but I also have to realize that it's the Hall of Fame of that sport, not athlete of that sport. So I have to let that go for me sometimes. But we always just, 3,000 hits. But there's guys in, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame that have less than 3,000 hits. There's guys with less than 500 home runs. And usually they have one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
but it's not always a requirement. So, no, numbers bad. Even though we always love to go and look at the numbers every morning at the sports score, every box score you open, what do? Look at numbers.
Yeah. I think the interesting part of this is exactly what you said earlier, is the fact that he can claim actual financial damage from this because, like you said, he can command better speaking fees. He can, get things based on being a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. And now that's a little difficult to prove because you're trying to show an abstract, but lawyers make a lot of money for finding out a way to do that. So I think that's interesting that that's essentially his case, is that it is directly interfering with his ability to make money based on something that the school decided to do without his say or, whatever. So I don't know. It's one of those I could actually see both sides of the legal argument. If you're asking me my subjective opinion, do I think he's a Hall of Fame coach? I do. I think he is. He's probably not somebody I would hang out with all that much. I'm not sure I love his character all that much, but that being said, I do think he's a Hall of Fame coach. So it'd be interesting to certainly see how this one plays out. Let's stay in the world of football here. Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman, former Alabama player Isaiah Buggs, has been arrested again. Nope. Hey, we don't do anything halfway at the University of Alabama, James. Isaiah Buggs has been arrested for the second time in a month after he was booked on a domestic violence and burglary charge in Alabama on Sunday morning. He was released, according to online records. We hear about in college football that it's the silly season, and you don't want to be making the newspapers in June and July because usually for a bad thing. Isaiah Buggs, wait till he get to the pros. He's coming back home over the summer. He keeps getting arrested. What? I mean, 2 times in a month, is this something? I mean, look, this could threaten his job.
Do you think it's because he came home? Because sometimes when you get back home with your friends, you do dumb stuff with your friends.
Definitely. I mean, that's what the college coaches always talked about, is keeping them in the bubble. They hated them when the guys went home, because you get back around everybody who's glomming onto you, everybody who wants something from you. You get into maybe some of the bad habits you did before you theoretically have matured. So yeah, I mean, coming home probably isn't a good thing. Plus, you come back home, might be jealous people who want to take a shot at you. Different things like that. They know you have something to lose, so they're hoping to catch you punching them on video, and then they can cash in, something like that. So I don't know. It's hard to say don't go home. It's hard to say don't hang around.
Real hard, especially if your parents are there, man. Father's Day weekend and everything. You can't be like, don't go see dad.
But the NFL is such a limited window to make money. I mean, it's what? Average career's 3.5 years.
Once you hit 5 years, that's when you get to collect for your union retirement. So 5 years, you're lucky.
So yeah, it's hard, but man, you got to protect that. But anyway, well, let's get into some best and worst. We're going to keep doing these during the show, but best and worst of the weekend. Don't know if we've had any submissions in, James, but why don't you lead us off with maybe your best and worst of the weekend?
All right, let's see. For my best and worst of the weekend, I am going to go with the Washington Nationals sweeping the Marlins over the weekend in a 3-game, well, I think it was a 4-game series, but we're just talking the weekend, the 3 days there. The Nats only allowed the Fish 2 whole runs over the 3-game series. So congratulations to them. And I'm also finding one of my best to be Florida State, still alive.
Go Noles.
26th time going there. No wins yet. Can you be the bride this time, or will you still be the bridesmaid? My worst of the weekend actually extends into this weekend and last weekend, with the Oakland Athletics deciding that they don't know how to play baseball anymore and going 0-9 over the last 9 games.
It's Moneyball in reverse. Yeah, I'll give mine. Mine are a little bit, or my best is a little off the beaten path here, but there's a personal tie-in and a tie-in to Bay County in this. My best of the weekend, we're at the United States Swimming Olympic Team Trials right now. Meet goes on for about 8 days. They're in Indianapolis. They actually do it in stadium, and they'll put temporary pools in. They had 20,000 fans watching the first night. Gretchen Walsh from Nashville, Tennessee, my old club, Nashville Aquatic Club, who also swims at the University of Virginia now. Gretchen Walsh set a new world record in the 100-meter butterfly on her way to qualifying for her first Olympic team. So absolutely congratulations to her. We're starting to fill in some names. Mobile, Alabama's Paige Madden, it looks like, has qualified in the 400-meter freestyle. Katie Ledecky has qualified for her fourth consecutive United States Olympic team. Of course, a lot of people who watch the Olympics will remember her. But Gretchen getting that done is just phenomenal. She just missed out on making the team 3 years ago in Tokyo. Her older sister, Alex, actually was a silver medalist at that and is hoping to make the team this year. But the local tie-in is that there were so many swimmers coming in out of COVID. So all these pools across the country, a lot of them, of course, in colder areas, are indoor pools. And with all the restrictions and everything, and depending on your state, most pools were closed for months and months and months. And these swimmers needed places to train. You know, at that point, we didn't know exactly what Tokyo was going to do in 2020. So a lot of swimmers, guess where they came to swim? Panama City Beach, Frank Brown Park, huge outdoor space, really nice, large pool. And there were kids from all over the country. Well, two of the ones who came in and were swimming a lot during that early time in COVID, Gretchen and Alex Walsh. So love the fact that we had the ability to help them out. They've vacationed here, you know, sporadically through the years, but just big congratulations to Gretchen. And then my worst of the weekend, Rory McIlroy, who put himself in position to get back off the schneid, win his first major in about 10 years. I think it would have been his fifth, if I'm not mistaken, fifth or sixth. He's still missing the Masters for the Grand Slam, the career slam, but Rory had the lead and then bogeyed 3 of the last 4 holes, missing 2 putts inside of 6 feet to do it. He basically turned into Happy Gilmore with the putter. Down the stretch, Bryson DeChambeau hits an amazing kind of up and down out of trouble on the 72nd hole to win the U.S. Open. But Rory just really giving it away there at the end was really rough, especially for someone who got so kind of caught up in the politics of golf during the big split with Liv. You know, a lot of people, you know, who used to be fans of Rory kind of lost it for him then. And I think it would have been great for him to kind of get back and get that major going again. But, wow, to lose it that way is just something that you hope doesn't stick with him, because that's a tough one. That's going to be one he remembers for a really long time, and not for the right reasons at all.
So we got some best in worst of the weekend from our buddy Caveman Rick.
Let's do it.
The best, the F-350 pseudo flyovers at the ball games, and his worst of the weekend were his Phillies only getting 1 win against the Orioles over the weekend.
Yeah. I knew it would revolve around the Phillies somehow. You just hope with Rick it revolves around the best, just not this weekend. But anyway, guys, don't forget here, Best of Bay voting is open until June 24th. You've got 1 more week. You can vote 1 time per email address. So if you've got all these burner email addresses, use them all. But you need to vote for the Afternoon Underdogs, the Inside Drive, Coach James Hale. Also, don't forget our friend Sam Peebles with his Braves, I think it's the Braves Dugout podcast. But make sure you vote for all of us here involved in ESPN Northwest Florida. And the Best of Bay voting, again, you can vote up to 1 time per email per day from now until June the 24th. So that's going to do it for our opening segment here. When we come back on the Afternoon Underdogs, we're going to go around the track with R.J. Starcevich, talk about what's going on in the NASCAR world. Did we have any fights on the track? Did we have any fights in the pits? I mean, we're going to talk about it all with RJ. There's nobody better, and that's coming up next. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. Here's what's happening
Are you tired of dynasties? Sick of seeing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs hoist the Super Bowl trophy or the Oklahoma Sooners in their 4th consecutive softball championship? Then you should stop what you're doing right now. Go to ESPNPC.com and vote for the Afternoon Underdogs for Best of Bay. As Americans, I like to think we still root for the underdogs. It was just over 200 years ago that the British blew a 13-colony lead, and now here we are. Vote for the Afternoon Underdogs today.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Monday afternoon. The rest of the day, a possibility of thunderstorms and some clouds and 90 with a moderate breeze out of the southeast around 16 miles per hour. For tonight, some clouds and a low near 77. Tomorrow, wind 10 to 15 miles per hour, partly cloudy and a high around 91. For Wednesday, some clouds and a high of 92. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Discover the new Kia during the Summer Sticker Sales event going on now at Bill Bird Kia. Our SUV family is built for all-in adventures and endless possibilities. Whether you're traveling on the highways or off-road, you'll do it with grace and grit. Now offering 1.9% APR for up to 48 months on the purchase of a new 2024 Kia Sorento or a new 2024 Kia Sportage. You get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. Bill Bird Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. Now enjoy the view this summer because the road is yours in a brand new Kia from Bill Bird Kia.
Offer from Kia Finance America for the purchase of a new 2024 Kia Sorento or new 2024 Kia Sportage with $2,165 per month per 1,000 financed and 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 7/8/24.
The defending champ is back on top in Iowa. I'm Kyle Rickey. That story next on NASCAR Hot Pass.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Keep up with all of the action during the 2024 NASCAR season with NASCAR Today.
William Byron has won the Daytona 500.
Every weekday throughout the season, we'll bring you the latest news and insights.
At that point, I really had in my mind, okay, we can really win this.
As we count down the days to championship weekend in Phoenix.
It's surreal still. I can't believe I'm in this position.
I'm Chase Elliott. Listen to NASCAR Today every weekday right here on the Motor Racing Network.
2023 NASCAR Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney claimed his first win of the season last night, taking the checkered flag in the Iowa Corn 350 powered by ethanol in the series' first visit to the Iowa Speedway. Blaney held off William Byron by 0.7 of a second at the finish.
A few more wins here.
It's tough, getting those things around there and bouncing around and losing tons of grip. But at the same time, you're driving super hard down in the corner. So it's just a cool racetrack. I thought it put on pretty good racing, and our car was kind of versatile. So that part makes it even more fun.
With the win, Blaney has won at the Newton, Iowa facility in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and now the Cup Series. See the full results at MRN.com. I'm Kyle Rickey. This is NASCAR Hot Pass on the Motor Racing Network.
From Tyndall Air Force Base to the Hathaway Bridge, we're live and local. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Tell you what, there's nothing much better to listen to than driving around, listening to a little CCR there, but not at the speeds the boys were going in Iowa this weekend. We're going around the track with RJ Starcevich. RJ, how are we doing this Monday afternoon?
I'm doing good, my man. Usually in Florida. I got another week here in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I've officially been here for a week now. When I was on here last week, I was driving downtown trying to find where I'm staying at, so found it. That's the update there, and yeah, I've been here all week. Been a blast of a time. Been around the city, the area, all the shops. It's been great. But yeah, weather's a little bit cooler up here too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've driven in Charlotte traffic. I was wondering if you'd actually made it to your destination in a week. But
I was trapped, man, in that traffic. I had some today. Yeah, when you get in the city, there's certainly a lot of traffic here, but once you can get around that, there's some nice scenery to look at when you're not distracted by, everybody going 20 mile an hour.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm not as up on all the current things as David, but I've definitely got some questions for you. But I've got some bigger questions for you for some things going on in NASCAR. So I definitely have plenty that I want to talk to you about. But let's start with the race this weekend. Ryan Blaney getting the victory there at Iowa Speedway over William Byron and Chase Elliott. Talk to us a little bit about the race and maybe how it shook out.
Yeah, it was, in my opinion, a pretty good show. First ever Cup Series race at Iowa. NASCAR goes back there after, many years of being away from the racetrack. They renovated it. The fans packed the place out. They had events going on all week, and it just looked like a good time for sure. They had repaved part of the track before the race, and so we didn't really know how the racing was going to pan out, but I think it panned out pretty well. We were able to see 2 and 3 wide racing. Restarts were pretty crazy. And, not too much, events happening during the race, like crashes or anything, but I mean, a lot of long runs, a lot of strategy under the lights. You can never beat that. And yeah, Ryan Blaney was able to kind of get out there in the final stage and just hold on. He had a late race charge from William Byron, who almost got there as they were going through some lap traffic, but definitely a great statement win for Ryan Blaney. He is the first driver to win, and he won a Truck Series race at Iowa back in the day. He won an Xfinity race back in Iowa back in the day, and now he comes and wins the first Cup Series race ever at Iowa in his home track with his father there on Father's Day. So that was pretty cool for Ryan Blaney. But yeah, overall, I think the race was pretty great. I enjoyed watching it. I know the fans that the feedback has been pretty well. And yeah, Ryan Blaney gets the job done. First win 2024 for the defending champion.
Yeah, well, Blaney starts second, takes the victory. Now, starting behind, didn't have quite as good a Father's Day up there in Iowa. Kyle Larson starts on the pole, but ends up finishing 34th. Kind of what led? He led 80 laps early, but what led to Kyle Larson's poor finish?
Yeah, so he was up front, one of the dominant cars. Yeah. He was in my top 3 to win the race, and he got crashed. Yeah, they were on a restart. I believe just a few laps into the restart, he was in the middle of like 3 wide. Daniel Suarez had gotten loose up the track, got into him, and that turned Larson into Denny Hamlin, so wiped them both out of the race about midway through. So it was definitely, Larson was able to get back out there. They repaired the car, so he made laps, but obviously they were not competitive whatsoever. So, unfortunately, terminal ending to what was seeming like going to be a great day for Larson, and probably would have been up there battling with Ryan Blaney for that win. But yeah, as you were saying, he was led 80 laps early, gets wrecked, and then boom, that's what turns a top 3 into a 34th place finish.
Well, that's what they say. Cautions breed cautions, so no doubt. Sure. All right, so we got, I guess, about a third of the regular season left here. So as we're kind of getting down to the home stretch here, talk a little bit about where we stand kind of going into the playoffs and everything like that for someone like me who tries to keep up but is not in it as much as I should be.
Yeah, so we got 10 guys with wins already. Ryan Blaney added his name to that list. Those guys are set in stone, locked into the postseason. And right now, there are now down to 6 open spots that people are vying for in the playoffs, like people that haven't won. Now, a few of them are pretty much locked up. Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, they got big, gaps over the cut line. They should be good as long as they stay consistent. But the real battle comes, in those last few spots. We got Chris Buescher, who's only 27 points above the cut line. Bubba Wallace is only 6 points above the cut line. Two of our younger drivers in our sport are going to have to be fending off 2 of our more veteran drivers in the sport, which is Joey Logano, who's out of the playoffs right now. He's 6 points out, and Kyle Busch, 31 points out of the playoffs, who is just having an absolutely abysmal month. I mean, they were running really well yesterday, and they get crashed. Well, they didn't totally get crashed, but They made some contact with another car on the racetrack, and it cut their tire, ended their day. Sonoma, he was going to have a top 10, gets crashed by Ross Chastain. So it's been a frustrating month for Kyle Busch, but I think they'll be able to turn it around and make it in. And then you look at below 18th, the fun part, the most unexpected part about NASCAR's playoffs, right, is anybody below that can win a race and get in. So somebody like Justin Haley, who's 30th in the standings, 180 points back of the playoffs, he's not going to make it on points. But, if he goes out there and wins at Daytona in a few months, where anybody can get the job done, he makes it into the playoffs. So that's why you just always, in today's sport, I think as competitive as it is and how, people can just make a run at the win whenever during the season, right? Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 25th in the standings. They're having a pretty bad year. He finished 5th at Iowa last night. And so they were able to have a spectacular run. You never know when that can result in a win. That's the biggest, most intriguing part, I should say, about our playoffs is, we're coming down to the end here. You got the points battle, right? Logano and Kyle Busch trying to fight their way in. But you know what? There are 14-plus drivers below that that could just win a race and get themselves into the playoffs. So, the summer, a lot of interesting tracks here coming up. The stakes and the tempers are only going to get higher.
You mentioned Martin Truex Jr. being locked in. I was reading that Truex came out and said he was retiring at season's end. One of the things that he brought up was kind of the crazy schedule and everything. When I really was watching NASCAR, I remember that Truex was, I think he won one or two, I think at that time, Busch Series titles. He was either with DEI or Junior Motorsport, one of the Earnhardt things. And I remember when he came up, became a Cup regular. Talk a little bit about that, just the fact that Truex talking about retirement and maybe the merits to what he's talking about with the schedule.
Yeah, the biggest reason that he gave, and Martin Truex Jr. retiring from full-time competition at the end of the season. He was the oldest active driver at the moment. But, he was talking about the schedule and how he looks forward to, in the future, being able to make his own schedule because he hasn't been able to the last 20-plus years. And, what that really means is, when you're a driver during the season, especially when you're racing for a team as big as Joe Gibbs Racing, all year long. I mean, even in the off season too. The famous saying here is like the off season isn't really an off season. But even mostly during the season when you're racing for a big team, throughout the week, you got to be traveling. You're at the track, obviously, for race day, for race weekends, for practices, for qualifying. But, there's also sponsor obligations, media obligations. And during the week, it's not like you're kind of just chilling. You're at the race shop, you're with the team, trying to work on the car, see what you can make better for the next weekend. You could even be talking about races that are in 2 to 3 weeks, during that time. So it is certainly a very, grueling travel schedule. And for those that love it, I mean, like myself and everybody else in the sport, you love it when you do get to do that, but it's not that it's not tiring, whatsoever. So for somebody that's done it as long as him, competitively, he's still at the top of his game, in my opinion. He's still going out there competing for race wins, and could chase a championship this year in his final year. But it's more of the point that, he wants to just sit back, make his own schedule. He still wants to race. He said he's probably going to be running a few Cup races and Xfinity races next season, so he'll still be out there, but not going to be full-time, not going to have all those, sponsorship obligations, race weekend obligations. Is going to be able to just sit back, relax, and enjoy life a little bit more.
All right, RJ, I do not know a whole lot about NASCAR. Last time I watched NASCAR, Matt Kenseth was the champion. So that can get you.
Gracious. I've watched since then.
Kind of a timeline here. So 16 guys make the playoffs now. And if you win a race, you automatically get into the playoffs. So what happens if we have a season where every race is won by somebody different? Do they just cut it off at 16 and go by points then, or do they just expand the field for everybody?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a great question because, that unexpected phenomenon actually happened a few years ago where, back in 2022 was the first year of the next-gen car. We had so many damn winners, that it was, like, unthinkable that we went into this 16-car postseason and we're like, oh, there's not going to be that many winners. There never has been. But, yeah, there was more than 16 winners in that season. Now, what happened is there was, a situation where when Kurt Busch was injured, and so he ended up giving up his playoff spot because he was injured to the next guy coming in. But yeah, it basically ends up going to the next guy with the highest amount of points. That's how they end up breaking that tiebreaker between all those guys at the bottom of the playoffs. So if there's 20 winners, once they say there's 15 winners, all right, all 15 of you guys are locked in the playoffs, no matter how low, whether you finished first in the first race of the season and finished last, every race after that, you're still in the playoffs. But if there happens to be 16 more guys that go to victory lane and you're 17th, of those guys, then you're out. So it hasn't happened since that year. You never know when it's going to happen again. Everybody uses the word parity as far as the competitiveness of the field that we've seen the last few years. But yeah, that did happen a few years ago. There was an injury involved in there, so it kind of got sorted out easier. But, if Kurt Busch had never got injured, he was competing that year. I would have loved to see kind of what the fallout of that, would have been. But, yeah, that's pretty much how they do it. It'll just end up being a tiebreaker via actual points if they have too many people in the playoffs.
I hope this isn't an impossible question to pare down into a few minutes, but I figure I'm going to ask the expert. I have a feeling you can do this for me. I was reading a story last week about Stewart-Haas Racing. It looks like stepping away. And look, I do follow racing enough to know. I know Gene Haas has always been, across all racing, but certainly he's got a lot of interest in his F1 team. And Tony Stewart's always been interested in, great, every type of racing, the late models and midgets, and now I think he's big into drag and everything. So maybe his focus isn't there. But in reading the story, they were talking about these franchises and different things. Can you kind of maybe talk about the business end of it and the franchises and why maybe Stewart-Haas is stepping aside?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think it was definitely it was surprising, but still somewhat of a shock when they stepped away. I think a lot of it had to do with performance within the organization. They were not getting the results that they wanted. They used to be a team where Tony Stewart came in, racing for his own team, won a championship back in 2011, right? Kevin Harvick comes in 2014, wins a championship for the team. And then ever since then, it seemed to only be Kevin Harvick, guy that was running up front. And it was, it seemed to be Kevin Harvick and the rest. And Kevin Harvick retires, and there were, there were jokes out there, I'm sure, like, oh man, Kevin Harvick retires, now what are they going to do? But that kind of was a reality. Yeah. It's like, well, Kevin Harvick really was the guy that was uplifting this team for so many years. And so I think a lot of it is business. I know they have a few of the cars that are fighting for sponsorship. They don't have, Busch Beer had left the team. They were big with Kevin Harvick, whether it was Busch or Budweiser. So, I don't think it had much to do with Tony Stewart, Gene Haas losing a passion. I know they love racing. Tony Stewart is doing a lot of other things. Same with Gene Haas. Yeah. So it's like, I don't think it's as much of a loss. I'm sure they're still upset to lose the team. But I think a mix of business standpoint, things were going a little bit downhill for the team, performance, things going downhill, and as well as Stewart and Gene Haas having other, being invested in so many other forms of racing. And I think ultimately kind of led to that decision.
So on to New Hampshire this weekend, New Hampshire Speedway up there again. We're kind of hitting the home stretch going in. Maybe give us a couple of drivers to look for as we head up to the Northeast.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking for, somebody like Denny Hamlin. He is fantastic at New Hampshire throughout his career. He has been amazing there. I think I would look for him as an easy top 5 guy. Same with Christopher Bell. Every series he's been in, he's been to victory lane at New Hampshire. He's won Xfinity races there. He's won Cup Series races there. He's always going to be competitive there. And then somebody I'm just looking to make something happen, Kyle Busch. I think regardless, I think Kyle Busch is going to be fast. It's just where's the luck, Are they gonna have an issue, mechanical failure? Somebody's going to crash him? I don't know. But he's racing with a big chip on his shoulder. We know how close he is to the playoffs. I'd look for Kyle Busch to make something happen.
Full weekend this weekend or just Cup?
It'll be Cup and Xfinity. So no trucks. Trucks are off again for another week. They've had the whole month off. But yeah, Cup and Xfinity will be racing way up north up there in New Hampshire.
Sounds good. RJ, thanks for carrying a few latent NASCAR fans along here for the ride. Always great talking with you. Great information and insight, and we will look forward to talking to you next Monday.
Yes, sir. You guys are awesome. Thank you, man.
All right, that's RJ Starcevich taking around the track. That was great. I mean, a lot of good info. Sounds like it was a great race in Iowa, and looking forward to another one here in New Hampshire this weekend. Now, when we get back, we're going to talk more headlines. We're going to get to a lot of our listeners' best and worst of the weekend. And if you want to give us a call and talk about anything related to the world of sports, give us your best and worst on the air. Be happy to do that. Give us a call at 850-215-6290. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Atlanta Braves 7-year send-off.
That is gone!
From ESPN Northwest Florida.
Drew Gerhardt. We are going to be sending you to Atlanta on September 7th on a Saturday to see the Braves take on the Blue Jays. That's coming with your hotel, with your spending cash, your food and beverage at the game, and some great seats at the Xfinity Club. Drew, now what's your excitement level feeling like?
All right. We're going to Atlanta.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Monday afternoon. The rest of the day, a possibility of thunderstorms and some clouds and 90 with a moderate breeze out of the southeast around 16 miles per hour. For tonight, some clouds and a low near 77. Tomorrow, a wind 10 to 15 miles per hour, partly cloudy and a high around 91. For Wednesday, some clouds and a high of 92. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hey folks, Chris Kramer with Bill Kramer GM. And the best place to listen to the Inside Drive with Ryan Mulvey is inside a brand new vehicle from Bill Kramer GM. And I want you to know we've got 10 times the amount of inventory on the ground as we did this time last year, and darn near all of them are discounted. So shop us online at BillKramerGM.com or visit us the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd. We'll make it easy and take great care of you.
In the jewelry business, there is no substitute for experience. David Adamson has over 46 years of experience, 32 of those in Lynn Haven. Designing and creating fine jewelry is more than a job for David, it's a joy. If you're looking for a spectacular jewelry design that says you, or perhaps you need your jewelry repaired, look no further than David Adamson Designer Jewelry. All work is done in-house and always to your complete satisfaction. Stop in today at David Adamson Designer Jewelry, 830 Ohio Avenue in Lynn Haven. They're on Facebook and at pcjeweler.com.
Hometown Sports Talk from hometown hosts.
People are loving it.
We're live and local. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Are you kidding me?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And welcome back to the Afternoon Underdogs. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes today on a Monday. Big Bad James behind the board, spinning the tunes and keeping us plugged in. Guys, golf has a problem. And I'm not talking about the U.S. Open. I'm not even talking about Rory McIlroy's his putting woes. Because it was an excellent tournament, the problem is still the layover from this LIV and PGA split. So what do I mean? Well, Bryson DeChambeau, who just won his second U.S. Open, obviously United States citizen, Bryson DeChambeau, was sixth at the Masters. Is playing some absolutely phenomenal golf. Bryson DeChambeau will not be able to represent the United States at the Olympics this year. And the reason being is tied to this LIV and PGA issue. Bryson DeChambeau will not be able to make it because they select the Olympic team, the United States Olympic team selects based on official world golf ranking points. Well, LIV tournaments do not count in the official world golf rankings, which has been a major source of contention as it relates to invites to majors and different things like that. So once again, the politics of golf is getting in the way of the best golfers in the world being at the biggest tournaments. So look, Scottie Scheffler is going to be there. He should be there. Xander Schauffele right now is going to represent the United States. He won the PGA. I got no problem with Xander being there. Currently, the next 2 spots will be held by Colin Morikawa, excellent golfer, multi-time major winner, not playing as hot as Bryson right now, but okay. And then last year's U.S. Open winner, Wyndham Clark. So we're talking about, because they have more official world golf ranking points, they're going to make the team over who is arguably one of the hottest, if not the hottest golfer in the world. Well, maybe behind Scheffler right now, and Bryson DeChambeau. So, again, it's one of those things where I love the sport of golf. I haven't watched nearly as much since the split, and it's a problem, and they've got to get this figured out, because if you have people like me, who I used to never miss a swing at a major, I haven't caught one this year, you got a problem, golf. So that's my lukewarm hot take of the day. It bothered me when I read that. I think you want your best golfers at the biggest tournaments in the world.
I just realized golf was in the Olympics again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was, then like 1900, 1904, and then not again until
about
last one,
8 years ago. 8 years ago, I think they had it down in Brazil, because there was all the worry about, it was before COVID. What was the big, was it Zika?
Zika's a thing.
But that was the big worry back then, or at least that's what a lot of golfers claimed was the reason they didn't want to go, because I think it was because they didn't want to add to their schedule.
So you coach swimming, so
I did.
You know about swimming. So what's your take on right now with the Rhine or wherever they're going to be doing the swimming in Paris?
It's a mess.
Also having a whole bunch of E. coli with it.
It's a mess. Anytime you deal with open water event, look, a couple of weeks ago when I missed the show, I was at an open water event at a lake in Kentucky for our Southeastern athletes. And there had been obviously those huge storms that rolled through Kentucky a few weeks ago. Well, the lake was way up, and there were E. coli concerns. Now, all the testing, Army Corps of Engineers, everybody does that. It was fine, but we had to move the course. I have read about on the River Seine and everything. Of course, it's the dumping ground for, as most rivers are for major metropolitan areas. But yeah, the E. coli levels are off the chart, and they're still not within range. And as far as I can tell, there's no plan B, which is the most criminal. I understand the fact that the river is polluted. That goes without saying. No plan B is absurd.
Dry suits.
Well, they're going to need hazmat suits to swim in the Seine.
Just put them all in big old dry suits.
There are things to do. There's lakes all through France. There are things that they could do, and I'm sure they will. But the fact that there is not an established plan B is problematic, because you're talking about a huge event here, the Olympics. This is not just some,
And you're talking about people who don't really want to have a big old swig of E. coli.
No.
These are professional athletes that they're going to be at the Olympics, but 2 or 3 weeks after the Olympics, I bet they're doing something else professionally that's swimming, and I'm sure they don't want to be sitting in a doctor's office holding their stomach going, Doc, I just can't stop, man.
Yeah, it's hard enough to swim, a 10K, a 20K, or 25K, whatever. Gulping in, the waste of Paris is not much fun. So hopefully they can get something figured out. It would be wonderful on the Seine. It really would. But they need to have some kind of plan B just in case, because right now it does not look like it. And look, one really big rain, levels are going to go off the chart again.
Yeah, it's going to flow everything right into the river.
Yeah, so not good at all. But I'm going to get into a few more headlines here, and feel free to jump in with any.
Best and worst.
Yeah, let's get into some listener best and worst if you've got some ready.
Let's start off with Chef Ross. Chef Ross, his best Snoop Dogg during the Brewers broadcast over the weekend. Thank you, Chef Ross. I'm going to have to go find this now because I didn't watch it, but I guarantee you I want to see it. And his worst is Florida State coaching decisions late in Game 1 of
the Tennessee game. That was a rough one.
That was an exciting game to watch. I watched all 9 innings of that one, and that one was a hoot to watch, I tell you.
I got to tell you, this Tennessee team, they've got a bravado, but they know how to win late. And no score scares them. That's what's impressive about this team.
Other than the trip up against Evansville, they have just been dominant. And they looked good in that Evansville game. It's just Evansville was just playing out of their mind.
But even back into the SEC tournament, they were having to come from behind late on teams there, and I mean, get on that momentum roll. So, yeah, Tennessee. Look, I mean, it's a running joke on these shows that, you know, I'm not any fan of Tennessee, and it's mainly because of growing up an Alabama fan, and I just find that orange offensive. But that being said, this is a great baseball team, and they seem to have it kind of plugged in right now to where they are confident no matter what the situation, and that goes a long way when you're sitting in that dugout and you may be looking at a 3 or 4 run deficit in the 6th or 7th inning. If you're still confident in your team at that point, that goes a long way.
They were throwing in pitchers, didn't matter.
That's right.
I saw starters coming in the 6th inning. They're like, yeah, whatever, we're just going to ball. And they did. They did. All right, let's head over from the text line. We got James on the text line.
Okay.
Best. Drew loses due to CM Punk storyline being at its best, and his worst of the weekend was the Panthers not closing it out against the Oilers. And James has a question for you, Brian.
Okay.
What was your take on Clash at the Castle?
Well, we're going to get into it a lot more with Monty and Pharaoh at 5:40. So James, definitely make sure that you're listening for that. Honestly, I thought it was really well done. We talked about it on Friday. Outside of the big 4 shows that they do, Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and Survivor Series and SummerSlam, the rest of them, they're shorter, they're smaller cards. I thought this was very compact. It definitely... My predictions were not good, but I thought they told some interesting stories. And what I loved about it was they were stories that I should have seen coming and didn't. And that's what I always love. The women's tag match was a huge shock, but because it was a triple threat, I should have seen a change coming. I thought the Cody AJ match, I'm not a fan of I Quit matches in general. I thought it was done extremely well. And the way that they told the story at the end with Drew losing in Scotland, second year in a row he's lost Clash at the Castle, with CM Punk being involved, and they are furthering that story, which just it's one of those things that each new chapter of the book is better than the one before. It's amazing the way that they're telling this story. So I thought it was an excellent I keep wanting to say pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever they call it. The only match for me that was kind of meh was the Sami Zayn Chad Gable match, which was phenomenal. It seemed like it was a match I had seen. You know, there wasn't anything really new with it. They've done this for a couple of weeks. So other than that, I thought overall it was a good, solid event, and it sets up beautifully for where the WWE is going, particularly over the next 2 months into SummerSlam. So excellent question there, James. Let's get into some headlines real quick here. Some more stuff going on. This is not good news for the Dodgers. Mookie Betts went on the injured list Monday for the first time this season. He has a broken left hand. The 31-year-old shortstop was hit by a 98-mile-per-hour fastball from Dan Altavilla in their 3-0 win over the Royals. It was in the 7th inning where he took that. So Mookie Betts going to be out for a little bit. I mean, the Dodgers have an embarrassment of riches in talent. So, but you never like to lose a player as valuable as Mookie Betts.
I was looking forward to seeing him in the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, he was wonderful
heading
player.
On his way there.
Wonderful, wonderful player. And, you know, it's just a shame because, like I said, I don't know. It's one of those things. I mean, it's bad enough, but golly, you just take a fastball off the hand and then you're out for a couple of weeks or whatever it is now, but not good at all. Cincinnati Bengals and T. Higgins saga at least has somewhat of a resolution.
Some kind of somewhat closer.
He will be with the Bengals. He signed his franchise tag, the team announced Monday. Now, by signing this tag, the 5th-year wide receiver is now expected to be at training camp. I love that word, expected, because we never know, do we? But
was Aaron there? No.
Yeah, it does look like that we probably are going to get T. Higgins in a Bengals uniform for this season at least, and then we'll have to see where that goes going forward. I think next year Jamar Chase might be up for an extension anyway, so who knows what's going on. But T. Higgins will be a Bengal. That's definitely good news for Joe Burrow. As long as they can keep the locker room together, T. Higgins very talented, and in most teams would be a number 1. He can be a number 2 in Cincinnati, and and they can maybe get back to, AFC Championship or Super Bowl.
Keep Burrow upright, man.
That's right.
To keep that guy upright. Great quarterback when he's not laying down, but a lot of quarterbacks are a lot better when they're not running for their lives. I know. I'm a Titans fan.
Isn't that the truth? That's the one area that I don't feel like we addressed in the offseason. They did a pretty good job overall. I like what they did with the defense. They gave, Calvin Ridley too much money, but they've got him on there.
Well, they had to. I mean, you got rid of your wide receiver number one guy, and Hopkins, yes, wide receiver number one, also kind of getting up in age, so you don't really want to sign him for too long of a period.
Sure.
So since you didn't re-sign A.J. Brown, and the guy you drafted to replace A.J. Brown is, I don't think, going to come back after his rookie contract is out, you got to give that money to somebody. So, hey, Calvin Ridley, take a year off and then come hang out with us.
And they didn't get Joe Alt, which was no fault of the Titans. He just got taken earlier by the Chargers. But I just don't know that they've addressed that offensive line enough. But, hey, I need something to complain about my Titans, so we'll do that. One more headline here to get to. Garrett Cole is set for his debut on Wednesday. Of course, I came into the season, with doom and gloom at my Yankees, awful pitching staff, and all they've done has just been phenomenal this year. So getting Garrett Cole back can only be a benefit. He's one of the best pitchers in the league, but here's hoping my Yankees can sustain it. I know most people don't agree with me in that thought of the Yankees having any level of success, but I do. But either way, Garrett Cole, phenomenal pitcher, great talent, and should only help bolster what has already been a pretty solid pitching staff, or at least in terms of what they've been able to do this year for the Yankees, who are sitting at 50-26 or something like that.
Looks like he will be going against Cade Popovich of the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, there you go. Well, welcome back to the fold. You get to play the most talented young team in baseball. So have fun with that, Garrett, but welcome back definitely to the Bronx. Well, we're heading up into the top of the hour break here. When we get back, we're going to talk to our good friend Steve Barnes from therebelwalk.com. We got all kind of fun stuff. We're going to get into the College World Series a lot and everything going on around Ole Miss athletics. So that's coming up next. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
America's team plays here.
Swing and a miss. Struck him out. That's number 10.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida. Charlie Morton, Max Fried, and Chris Sale lead the Braves' dominant pitching rotation.
That's 18 up, 18 down.
Sponsored by Panama City Toyota, Ellis Agency Insurance, Bestway Portable Buildings, PCB Hobby, and ESPN Northwest Florida.
Got him swinging, strike 3.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Monday afternoon. The rest of the day, the possibility of thunderstorms and some clouds and 90 with a moderate breeze out of the southeast around 16 miles per hour. For tonight, some clouds and a low near 77. Tomorrow, a wind 10 to 15 miles per hour, partly cloudy and a high around 91. For Wednesday, some clouds and a high of 92. This weather forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Your safety and proper care of your boat in an emergency is crucial. When it comes to on-water assistance, response time is everything. And since 1996, in the Bay or on the Gulf, it's Seato. Seato's Coast Guard licensed captains are on the scene in an average of 1 hour or less. Seato gets members home or back to boating faster. Become a member today at Seato.com or call 850-234-2323.
WPLQ Port St. Joe, WGSX Lynn Haven. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
He likes to lift weights in a parking lot and eat Weight Gainer 3000.
I'm really starting to feel out nasty.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
1 hour in the books and 1 hour left to go. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes today. Again, really quickly, want again to congratulate Drew Gerhardt, who won our all-inclusive trip to experience the Atlanta Braves playing the Toronto Blue Jays on Saturday, September 7th. That was part of our 7-year send-off here, celebrating our 7th year anniversary at ESPN Northwest Florida. This was sponsored by PCB Hobby, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas, and the Home 2 Suites. So congratulations again to Drew Gerhardt, and congratulations to us because we've got our Monday staple, our friend, our pal, Steve Barnes from the RebelWalk.com. How we doing on a Monday, Steve?
Hey, buddy, what's going on with you? And piggyback on your golf and Olympic story, we had the same thing happen in 1995 with beach volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
I was covering the Pensacola Beach Classic with the AVP, and what the Olympics were going to do was only take the FIVB rankings, not the AVP. So the Karch Karais in the world and Tim Hyders, they weren't going to go to the Olympics at all until there was so much of a stake about it. They had to let them in.
Yeah. I was going to say Karch Karai is one of the few volleyball names I remember, so that would have been a big deal if he didn't go. But, yeah.
Well, he won the gold.
Yeah. It's just a shame when all of like I said, the shame of it is, Steve, I'm a guy who used to set up, I'd have my TV, my laptop, my tablet, and my phone. I'd have 4 different views of Masters Thursday. I'd never miss a swing of a major. I haven't watched a single swing of a major this year. Golf's got a problem if guys like me aren't watching. But they're not listening to me, I guess. So what are you going to do? Well, here's something I am keeping.
To any of us.
Yeah, exactly. Here's something I am keeping up with, the College World Series. You know, I said a week ago, first of all, if you listen to me on Virginia, I apologize. Send me your betting slips because I thought Virginia was the dark horse to take it all, and it was to take their luggage and go home first. But look, this was the most wide open College World Series I've seen in a long time. I mean, there was not a team there I felt like didn't have a real shot. And the first 4 games, Steve, all one-run games. I mean, talk about what you've seen so far in this College World Series because it's been phenomenal baseball.
Well, I think Tennessee's in the catbird seat right now. They don't play today. They don't play tomorrow.
Right.
So they've got their pitching lined up. It's kind of like Ole Miss back in 2022.
Yeah.
So they can throw their ace if they have to get to the championship game, then save him for game 3 if it's needed.
That's right.
So they are in the catbird seat right now, depending what happens tonight. Now, I think everybody would like to see a Tennessee-Florida State rematch without a, certain umpire behind the plate. But
isn't that the truth?
I would like to see that.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. We saw almost every kind of baseball. The thing that's been interesting so far is outside of that Tennessee FSU game, we've seen relatively low-scoring affairs, which the entire postseason this year has just been runs. And I'm sure, look, the pitching gets better and people are tired. I mean, it's a grind at the end of the year, but good gracious, it's, 5-4, 3-2, 3-2, 7-3, 6-1, 5-4. That looks like more traditional baseball.
We have to also look at the weather. It's very, very humid right now in Nebraska.
Yeah, ball's not traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, the Florida game the other night with A&M, if that game would have not have been at night, if that had been in the daytime, that's a home run ball.
Yeah.
So I think the humidity's got a lot to do with it. You see it in Atlanta sometimes, where in the daytime a pop fly to right field just gets in the chop house. But at night it falls at the track.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of Tennessee, tonight we've got A&M versus Kentucky. Who do you like in that matchup?
Going with Kentucky for a personal reason. I told you Miss Evie, my boss.
Yep.
She had an MRI the other day, and she can't get it read because her orthopedic doctor is at the College World Series with A&M. So I want them to lose 2 quick and get home so they can diagnose her.
I agree. That's ridiculous.
And plus, I just think that Kentucky is on a roll right now. I mean, Kentucky and Tennessee, that's going to be a good game when they meet.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Look, we had Mississippi State beat Vandy, all SEC. We had last year, LSU beats Florida, all SEC final. I agree. I think it's looking like one this year. But
well, one side has to be SEC.
That's right. At this
SEC
point,
team.
that's right. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, but it's no surprise that the best baseball is being played essentially in the Southeast. I mean, the weather dictates it and everything like that. But even the ACC schools we're talking about, I mean, Virginia, okay, yeah, we'll call Virginia North, but not really. I mean, come on.
James said it last week, the Northeastern teams, would it help if they, played in domes or something? Well, they're still, not going to pump money
That's right.
into baseball up there. And a dome, if they build a dome, it'd be for football.
Yeah.
Or for, football/basketball like Syracuse did.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just better down here. And if you look at some of the hometowns of these kids, the kids from up north, where are they playing at? North Carolina State, Virginia, Florida State. They want to come south and play.
Yeah. Oh, I get it, and I don't blame them at all. But it's certainly been exciting. It's going to continue to be. Again, we have the A&M Kentucky game later tonight, and then we'll get into more elimination games tomorrow. I want to hear a little bit about this, Steve. This has got my interest piqued all day. Talk to me about the Ole Miss Football Women's Summit. I'm dying to hear about this event.
Okay, a lot of teams do this now, but what they do is they'll bring some women in there and say, okay, this is a fullback. This is what a fullback does.
Right.
Ole Miss, they brought in over 300 women, and one of them was our Donna Sprayberry at the rebelwalk.com. She wrote a great piece that's online already. So go read that, trust me. They had 8 players for a Q&A, and they had Kiffin. And the questions they were asking were not, what's an out route or what's a post pattern. No, they were asking about, what's the NIL doing to you right now? How are you handling that? How's the locker room with one kid making more than another? And they were asking the kids things like, okay, for your camaraderie, what restaurant do you go to in Oxford just to sit down and be yourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, I mean,
thoughtful questions.
For the old school people, like women don't know football. These women knew football.
Yeah. Well, look, all you got to do is grow up in the South, and some of the most passionate football fans there are women, and they know their football down here. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
I've ever met.
Yeah.
One of the best sports writers I've ever met was Leah Wakraska from the Athens Banner or Daily Herald or whatever they call that thing now. It's changed names so many times.
Right.
And she ended up leaving to go to Salt Lake City because a headhunter came and got her after the Atlanta Olympics to be the Salt Lake Buzz WNBA beat writer in Salt Lake City.
Wow.
Well, that team folds.
Yeah.
But they don't fire her. They put her in charge of Utah.
Mm-hmm.
They had Urban Meyer as a coach, Alex Smith as a quarterback, and Andrew Bogut as a center on the basketball team when she covered them. The only time ever one school's ever had a top pick in the NBA draft and the NFL draft, and it was Utah.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. I mean, it sounds like such a cool event, and you're right. Your initial, and it's chauvinist past or whatever, but it's, your first thought sometimes could be kind of what John Madden did when he retired and he went and started teaching football at universities. And it was, here is a drag route. Here is this, that, or the other. But no, I think you're right. I think it's wonderful. And here's the thing. So many of these questions are probably so much more thoughtful into just the general, just the overall impact of football on your life. And, I guarantee you a lot of those players and Kiffin himself probably sat there like, wow, I've never been asked something really like this before, and had to sit there and think about it, which is always a testament to a great event.
And plus, the 300 women, they got the jokes when the players were introducing themselves.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart said, "Yeah, I'm Jackson Dart from Draper, Utah. I play Wildcat wide receiver," and it was just erupting in laughter. They all knew.
Yeah. No, that's
and
cool.
I guess what some people thought was going to be the main thing for the ladies was they got a photo op with Juice the dog.
Oh, perfect.
I think more women were like, I want to ask this guy a question. I want to ask JJ Pegues this question.
Yeah. How we get into the playoffs, Coach?
Exactly. That was one of the questions.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, how are you preparing differently this year than you did in past years? And Kiffin was like, wow, when are the regular scribes going to come back so I don't get these tough questions?
I love it. Well, speaking of,
but he did have a good answer. He says, I think you prepare differently. You just mess things up. So you got to go the same way.
Yeah. Look, I have said this for years, and people roll their eyes, but they're not thinking about this. You'll understand. I think Lane Kiffin is the most honest college football coach in the country.
I know he is.
Yeah. He answers everything honestly, everything. And he'll answer everything. It's amazing. And I love listening to his interviews because I really feel like I'm getting an answer. I've never felt like I get coach speak with Lane Kiffin. So, absolutely.
Well, the only one in the SEC that was like him was Mike Leach.
Yep. 100%. And Leach, good Lord, where he could go, with things, of course, we all loved it. I mean, it got to the point where it was almost becoming, I think people forgot how good of a football coach he was because they loved his rants and his, discussions about, what the supernatural capabilities of a Sun Devil were and this, that, and the other.
Which mascot could beat the other mascot.
Yeah, and that's all funny, and it was great, but...
And they've got to let him in the Hall of Fame.
100%. We went through that earlier. It is... I understand having numbers and this, that, or the other, but it doesn't tell the story. And like I was talking, James and I were talking earlier, it's not because he died. I think everyone in the country would have thought he was a Hall of Famer when he was still alive, too. They've got to fix that.
Well, it's just those rules. Eli Manning is not allowed to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right, because you had to be, a first-team All-American?
You had to be a first-team All-American, and that year was Jason White.
Whose career would you have rather had?
Yeah, good point.
Well, speaking about the playoffs, we were talking about that just a minute ago. Who's a good team out there that would make kind of a good dark horse pick for the playoffs this year in your mind?
Okay, now I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this one.
Okay.
How about Washington State?
Interesting.
Maybe the Pac-12's not done. If they can get past Texas Tech, Washington, and Boise State, the rest of their schedule, Portland State, San Jose State, Fresno, Hawaii, Utah State, New Mexico, Oregon State, and Wyoming. If they can get past those three, they're going to have 10 wins. How do you keep a 10-win team out?
That's a really good point. They're not the team that I had thought of, but that makes perfect sense. I mean, it's a team with a lot of good players back. I mean, those guys have been playing well for a couple of years, and I think, didn't the staff turn over this year? I'm trying to remember.
They lost Cam Ward and went to Miami.
I knew Cam Ward left, but I mean, that team has been a solid team. It hasn't been only the Cam Ward show. I mean, there's talent there, so I think that's an excellent pick. It's definitely not one I thought of, but it makes perfect sense. Well, in the same vein, who's maybe a team out there in the college football landscape who might be set for like a step back or kind of falling, out of every year? There's somebody who just kind of blows up midway through the year. Who's that going to be this year?
Okay, I'm going to get some blowback on this one too.
Let's go.
How about Clemson? There are 4 teams who did not get one player from the transfer portal. three are easy to guess: Army, Navy, and Air Force. Because what kid's going to transfer to a service academy?
Right.
The other one was Clemson. Now they start with Georgia. I think that's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have Appalachian State. Ask Michigan and Texas A&M how that is to have them at home early. Then they have North Carolina State, who's still going to be good. They've got Grayson.
McCall's up there now. Yeah,
McCall. Yeah. Stanford. Then they got Florida State. I could see them losing 3 to the first 5.
Yeah.
If they lose 3, they're done.
Yeah. No, 100%. You know, it's amazing to think, because you would think Dabo generally has the mannerisms that would be perfect to attract people out of the transfer portal, but he's never embraced it. He has never come around to it, and only at his detriment. It's unbelievable that he has not been able to pivot off of this mindset he has toward the portal. And it's like, you're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube here. It's out. And I don't get it.
It's you got to play by the rules that are given to you.
Right.
And rules change. And he's just sitting there with his arms crossed going, no, this rule didn't change. And I'm sorry, dude, it did. You got to accept it, Dabo.
James is exactly right. And look at it this way. The last national championship team at Alabama, did they look like the first national championship team in Alabama?
Not even close.
No. Saban adapted, and Dabo is not adapting.
It's amazing. That's actually a great call out there on Clemson, too. It's wow. I'll tell you a team.
I got some game every now and then.
There you go. I tell you a team for me, I think is on the precipice of really having one of those nightmare scenario seasons. And their schedule's not brutal, other than they're in the SEC. But I've got this weird feeling about LSU having real struggles this year. And I could see Brian Kelly really being under the gun. I think people, were a little not sure about him. First year they win. Okay, that's great. Last year, all right, we probably got away with one. But we did have the Heisman winner. I don't know. This year, I still don't like their defense. I'm not sure about Nussmeier. I don't know. There's a lot to me that could go wrong, and there's always a team in the SEC. Last year, I think it was kind of Arkansas. There is a team that just kind of, falls apart midway through the season, and I'm a little worried about LSU. Now, that being said, it's LSU. They've got, enough general talent. They might make a run and make it to Atlanta. Who knows? But LSU's a team I've got some real concerns about if I were a fan.
Well, on defense, I think it's Harold Perkins Jr. He had that sophomore slump last year.
Well, they were playing him out of position for the first couple of games, too.
Does he come back and be the freshman he was?
Right.
Or does he revert back to what he was last year? That's going to be the big thing on defense. And on offense, I do like Nussmeier.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, it's going to be really hard to throw the ball when you're sitting on your butt.
That's true. It's a very different offensive line to what Joe Burrow had. That's for sure. No. I want to get back to baseball for a minute here. It was a thought that I've kind of had for a while here. Steve, you and I have watched college baseball for, hundreds of years, is the way I like to say it.
I think we saw George Bush play.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that's amazing is, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it wasn't that there weren't good players in college, but they tended to be later developers, or maybe the guys who didn't get drafted as high as they wanted to be. And that's what came into college, and the draft still was dominated by high school players. Now, what you're seeing, and this predates NIL. NIL has helped. But this predates NIL, and I think it has to do with just general resources available. What you're seeing now, the first round of the Major League Draft, once again, this year is going to be dominated by collegiate players. You're seeing the collegiate players, Paul Skeens, Wyatt Langford, Hurston Waldrop, all three are already in the bigs. Whether or not you agree that they got called up too fast, immaterial, they're all in the bigs because those guys played big, meaningful, important college baseball games. So my point is the college game has changed to where it looks like it's what's drawing the major ball players. And so my question is, how does this affect the minor leagues who already went through a bit of a weird pay structure issue in the last CBA? do you see this affecting minor league teams, or is there still just enough interest in baseball that the minor leagues aren't really changing or going anywhere?
Well, the minor leagues are developmental. So, I mean, I don't think that's going to change. But, I mean, yes, Skeen's there, but Holiday went up way too early.
Yeah.
And he's back down.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Skeen played the College World Series.
That's right.
Jackson Holiday played in high school. He doesn't have, I don't want to say the experience. He doesn't have the gravitas, I guess is the word. That, I've been in front of 35,000 people in Omaha. So, I mean, I think that's why two of the Ole Miss players are doing so well. Jacob Gonzalez and Tim Elko.
Yep.
They're in AA, and Elko was the Southern League's Player of the month last month. And I interviewed him, and he's like, there is nothing like anything that we saw in Omaha in 2022, where you had 35,000 fans and 25,000 were for you.
Yeah.
So I think that has one thing to it. But think about Holiday. You go out the first time in Camden Yards, aren't you, I'm sorry, but aren't you going to sort of wet your pants a little bit?
Yeah. And understandably so. Yeah, but look, now you've got NIL, you've got the resources in college are way better than anything you're getting, certainly through, Class A ball, Double A ball, probably even in a lot of cases in the SEC better than what you get in Triple A ball. You're able to make money now. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't go in through the college experience.
Do you think college players have more pull, have more say with what they're doing than if you go into the minor league system?
Probably.
I think James is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can say, Coach, look, I want this or this, or I'm getting to the portal. You can't do that when you sign that contract with the Orioles or the Braves. You can't say, well, I don't like what you're doing. I think I'm going to hop in the portal and go to the Mariners. You can't do that.
They own your rights there. You're not doing that.
I'm going to go over to the Nippon League.
There you go.
Well, Steve, as always, man, I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours, but we've got to go here. But always love talking with you. Great insights. And we will talk to you again next Monday.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, that is Steve Barnes, the great Steve Barnes. Check him out on the rebelwalk.com, and he's right here. Donna Sprayberry's got that wonderful story on the ladies football forum there at Ole Miss. I'm looking at it right now. Great read. Make sure you check that out. Steve joins us every Monday here on the Afternoon Underdogs. Well, coming up next, it's time for the PCB Hobby Takeover today with Julia. That is coming up next. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
For 7 years, ESPN Northwest Florida has been your destination on the Panhandle for the Atlanta Braves.
He just blew the doors off that thing.
But our listeners are the real MVP.
Another dominating performance.
So this year, we're giving away more tickets to Truist Park than ever before. Keep listening to win family 4-packs to experience the Atlanta Braves. From ESPN Northwest Florida, PCB Hobby, Pepsi, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas, and Home 2 Suites.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Monday evening. As we head into tonight, some clouds and a low of 77 with a gentle breeze out of the east around 11 miles per hour. For tomorrow morning, some sun and a temp near 86. In the afternoon and evening, partly sunny and a high around 90. For Wednesday, some clouds and a high of 90. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Discover the new Kia during the Summer Sticker Sales event going on now at Billburn Kia. Our SUV family is built for all in adventures and endless possibilities. Whether you're traveling on the highways or off-road, you'll do it with grace and grit. Now offering 1.9% APR for up to 48 months on the purchase of a new 2024 Kia Sorento or a new 2024 Kia Sportage. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. Billburn Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. Now enjoy the view this summer because the road is yours in a brand new Kia from Bill Bird Kia.
Offer from Kia Finance America for the purchase of a new 2024 Kia Sorento or new 2024 Kia Sportage with $2,165 per month per 1,000 financed and 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 7/8/24.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
This 53-man roster is stupid.
Where it's halftime all the time.
Raise the rosters, you cheapskate owners, and get that done now.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And it is PCB Hobby Takeover time here on a Monday. And we don't need a captain of the ship. We got the commander.
Exactly.
There you
Hello.
go. Julia is joining us from PCB Hobby. This isn't your first trip into the studio,
It's not. It's not.
You've been here with us. So, all right. So I need to know a little bit more, and I know our listeners do too, but you are a little bit newer to the PCB Hobby family, although maybe not to the overall family
Right.
here. But talk a little bit about yourself maybe and, just kind of how you ended up here with us here at PCB Hobby.
Right. So I just graduated from Troy University.
There you go.
Trojans.
Hey, Steve would have loved that. He used to work there.
Oh,
Excellent.
really?
That's
awesome.
perfect.
So, yeah, I just graduated from there. I got my degree in global business. But while going through there, I really took a liking to marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of blends the creativity that I feel like I have with the business world.
Sure.
And then Todd is my father, Captain Todd.
Oh, there we go.
So that's really my introduction.
Sure.
But they needed someone to handle all the social medias and all of that. And so obviously I was a candidate for that. So,
there you go.
So yeah, I started technically in October. Last October, I was working from home.
Mm-hmm.
But after I graduated, I moved down here and I've been in office ever since, and I've gotten to be at the headquarters that just recently opened.
That's
so it's
right.
been great. Yeah.
Wasn't a hard sell to get you to move to the
It
beach.
really wasn't,
Okay,
yeah.
Very good, very good. So now, but growing up now, you grew up not all that far away from here, correct?
Right. I'm from around Mobile.
Yeah.
That's where we've always lived. That's where Dad had his last shop, Gulf Coast Hobby.
That's right.
And so I've always kind of grown up with his business mindset.
Sure.
And so that kind of pushed me into pursuing business in school.
Excellent. Now, obviously, the business, I get that coming from your father,
Right.
knowing him, but I certainly understand that. But have you ever, I'm curious, you ever had an interest in any kind of collectibles at all, or is it just kind of your avenue?
Right. I'm not very
Okay.
interested in collectibles.
Yeah.
Obviously, I feel like I have grown my knowledge a lot
Sure.
since working here. I can recognize all the names and I can get into it. A lot of the information that I'm presented on social media is really interesting. And I was going to talk about this later, but like, for example, I was scrolling on this sports card account and I saw a post from Topps. Did you know that they used to put human hair in the in some of the cards? It was like a collector item. Like they have ones with like George Washington's hair in it. It's like a sports
It's
card
like the
almost.
forerunner of the relics that they do nowadays. Oh, my goodness.
Super cool.
Yeah,
cool.
that's interesting. I mean, look, those guys are, speaking of marketing,
Right.
those guys are geniuses at
Yeah.
marketing, and they know what sells. That's amazing. So, like you said, you've kind of gotten the crash course literally into all levels of collectibles. But talk a little bit about that, kind of what you do every day, and then like the absolute amazing forum that is social media for not only learning about things, but communicating with business and customers and just the different products that are out there.
Right. So again, I think that really goes with what I was saying, that you can learn so much from these collectibles and their social media accounts. Personally, my hobby is reading. And so I think this kind of relates. A lot of times when you're into a hobby, there's only so much that the actual like people come out with. So like Pokemon, you have the cards, you have whatever, but there's not much more outside of that. And social media provides such a great avenue for getting more content, not necessarily by the creator of whatever hobby, but you get like conspiracy theories about different things, and just so much more to interact with. You can stay up to date. I know on our accounts we post when new products are coming up. We do TCG playing schedules, and so it's very informational. And also, from my perspective, I love it because for us, we've grown so much as a company, and so seeing where we were 2 years ago when we started to compare to what we're posting now. We have pictures from the old shop and then now the renovations. It's super cool to see that time capsule.
You know, one of the things I enjoy, and look, I'm one of them old fogies. I'm being dragged kicking and screaming into the social media world. But one of the things that I love seeing on there is the connection where, like, if we post, like, a kid pulls a really neat card in the shop or something, that goes up on, like, an Instagram or Twitter or whatever, X or whatever y'all call it now, you know. But these things go up, and so many people, especially in our community, it's not a huge area down here. They connect, you know, oh, so-and-so, you know, I see them on, oh, they're at PCB Hobby. I've never gotten into baseball cards or Pokemon or whatever. It's just such a neat way to connect, you know, maybe people you know, just with collectibles and different things. It exposes so many more people, I would think.
Yeah, and from the numbers standpoint, I always say that our post with our customers in it, and our organized play nights, when we're posting pictures of that, we're posting good pools. Those always do better than just regular information. I mean, we're really trying to build a community of hobbyists.
So what you're saying is people like me who haven't been on social media and all like that, we're really missing out by missing all of the things that are available out there through all the social media platforms. All right, so after the show, you're going to have to show me how to do
Yes, I will.
All right,
I'll give you a
perfect.
crash course.
Well, let's talk about this. So look, somebody like me, again, I walk into the shop. That's how I know PCB Hobby, but there's so many other ways to experience PCB Hobby and collectibles and everything like that. Talk about some of those maybe that are out there.
It's incredible. Really what platforms social media has given us. Like for Whatnot and eBay Live. eBay, obviously it was just like a selling platform, but they've done so much with eBay Live and streaming that it becomes more of a social media. Yeah. And so, I mean, we're streaming on those platforms. That's the social media. We're interacting with people. So you can interact with us there. You can interact with us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And so I do a lot of the interactions on, like, if you've ever direct messaged us on Instagram or Facebook, I'm the one answering that. So you can touch us there. You can obviously come to the shop, call us, but yeah, we're available.
Yeah,
pretty much everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, and to your point, you were talking about the lives like Whatnot or eBay Live or things like that, and you know, everybody thinks, you know, well, I don't know that I really want to buy anything today, but those platforms aren't just for that. I mean,
it's entertaining.
Yeah, it's like a show. I mean, it's almost a community, because there are people who I've watched them and I've done a few of them where people will go in those rooms and they'll be part of the chat, and it's just.
Sometimes
you'll love
I'm
the
there.
show as much as buying something.
I'm there, and I'm not buying anything, but I love watching them. They're so much fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me pivot a little bit before Bill yells at me here. Let's talk about maybe some of the events that are coming up at the shop or different things going on.
So this past week has been super busy with all the shows we've gone to. So we just went to Heroes Con. That's a comic convention. We met some great people. We had some comic book artists signing on stream again with us. So that was really great. We got some huge covers. We got Hulk 181, which is like a massive...
I even know that one.
Yeah. It's
That's excellent.
Massive comic. So we just got that. We just went to the Baltimore Summer Expo for coins. And we've been doing coin shows forever. I remember even as a little kid going to the coin shows with Todd. Some great memories. So, and then of course we went to Gulf Coast Card Show, and you went to that one.
I did.
Which that one holds a special place in our heart because we helped
start it.
Yeah, we helped start it with Gulf Coast Hobby. So of course it was a great time. As far as releases go, tomorrow Yu-Gi-Oh! The Infinite Forbidden releases tomorrow. Wednesday, we have Pokemon Japan, Stellar Miracle. But with that, I have to tell you that it's released in Japan, not in the United States. So it's going to take a little longer. And then for sports card releases, I'll let you take that one. You're going to know more about that.
I could get into that. It's a lighter week, but trust me, there's plenty coming and all like that. Of course, last week we had Top Series 2, and then we had Optic Basketball. So those are some pretty big releases. And Series 2 continues to be big. I mean, they've got Victor Wembanyama and C.J. Stroud. And I'm talking about a baseball product, but they have basketball and football players in it.
And look,
very big.
I know nothing, but I hear from down the hall, the streamers yelling, Victor Wembanyama!
It's definitely a name that you'll remember.
Absolutely.
But, there are a couple of releases this week across. So Panini One Football. When they say Panini One, it's one of the higher end products, but it is literally one card. But it's a very high-end card. So great relics, big-time autographs, everything, beautiful cards. So that is coming out this week. Topps Museum Collection, UEFA Champions League. This is a soccer product. Very timely with the European leagues or in their Euro, which they're representing their countries. But and Museum Collection is one of the higher-end products out there that Topps and Fanatics do. And then Panini Immaculate WWE. So we've even got some wrestling.
SmackDown.
Which is, there you go, which is a great foray into what we're going into next, because we're going to be talking wrestling next. Now, this Friday, we get a big one in Panini Contenders Basketball. Contenders, always one of the big releases of the year. They have the rookie ticket autos that are always so popular, going back to the Tom Brady days, and how that kind of launched football cards. So Contenders, always a really big release. But when we get into July, it starts to get crazy, because now we start having some of the bigger baseball products. You've got the National Card Show going on, so usually Topps Chrome is there. Topps is coming back into the fray with football and basketball over the next 6 to 8 weeks. So that's going to be monstrous. So it's it's kind of the calm before the storm, if you will. This week on the sports card front. But yes, certainly just a lot going on there with PCB Hobby and everything like that. So is there any, I know you said you weren't normally into collectibles, but as you've kind of been fielding these questions, I'm curious, have you kind of been particular to one end or the other? Does one stand out to you, maybe draw your interest a little more than another?
So as far as the pictures I see, I have been loving, the comics team, they send me the most pictures.
Sure.
And so I get to see the fun they're having at all the shows. And I'm like, man, that seems so fun. And so, again, I said I was a reader. And so the comic books are kind of standing out to me. The ones in store, a lot of times are bagged and boarded.
That's right.
So I can't just pick up one and read.
Yeah.
But I have a couple at home that I really need to read. Sharon got me one that's Captain Ginger.
Okay.
And it has a cat on the front, and so she thought it was perfect for me because I like cats and I have red hair. So she was like, that's perfect. So that's number one on my to read list.
There you go.
But you're not going to like it, but I haven't looked into sports cards.
I get it.
I really haven't. I kind of rely on a lot of you guys to tell me what I'm looking at and all that. But that's something I definitely need to get more into.
Hey, the fun of it is just trying to figure, I mean, like you said, it doesn't register yet for you.
Right.
I am, God bless, I'm at an age where I'm hard to teach. And I kind of know what a Charizard is now in Pokemon, but that might be the extent of my TCG understanding there.
Just real quick, buy, hold, sell.
Okay.
Jason Tatum, closest he's ever been to a championship. What do you do?
I'm selling him generally because interest is going to be as high as it ever is in a guy who's about to win his first championship. The only reason I had a little pause, I thought Tatum's stuff would have been on a bigger run-up than it has been. What has been interesting is Jaylen Brown has really taken off. And I think what happened was people have expected this on Tatum for a while. It's a little similar to Luka over on the other side. So you're not seeing the massive swings per se, but I still think generally speaking, basketball during the playoffs is the time to sell. Because when you get into the off season, interest wanes a little bit. So if I'm doing this and I'm advising you, I'm selling Jason Tatum right now. So that's that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Julia, absolute blast. I loved getting to know a little bit more about you, and thank you so much. I know you've been in here before, but I thought this was much better. You know, we have the captain in the way today.
They can. Yeah,
that's right. We'll get him back. We'll let him talk about his coins and everything else. But no, I thought it was wonderful. And again, guys, there are so many ways to experience PCB Hobby. Come visit them in the shop. Check them out online. Like you said, if you have an inquiry, you're probably going to be talking to Miss Julia here.
Yeah.
So, absolute wonderful addition. Thank you so much for being in here.
Thank you, Brian.
And doing the PCB Hobby Takeover with us. Well, guys, coming up next, we're going to get into the wonderful, wonderful world of wrestling. We're going to talk about that clash at the castle. We got Monty and the Pharaoh coming up next to talk a little bit more about it with us. And you are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs here on ESPN Northwest Florida.
America's team plays here.
And a rocket to right field. This thing is into orbit.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida. Acuna, Ozzie, and Austin Riley lead the Braves' high-powered offense.
Swung on, belted, deep right field. Get out of here, Ozzie. Home run. Ball game.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida is sponsored by Brock's Pest Control, Stormore Portable Buildings, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Billberg Kia, and Mid-South Lumber.
If you spend any time at all in your yard, you're going to encounter fire ants.
We know they can ruin a party. That's why we're this area's experts at fire ant elimination.
As your certified top choice professional, we will rid your yard of these unwanted invaders. Brock Pest is so sure they will get rid of fire ants that they offer a 1-year guarantee.
Enjoy your yard fire ant free. We guarantee it. Give us a call for your free consultation.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control, our family protecting yours since 1968.
Hello, this is Rick Vossen with RV of Panama City, your local Stormore portable building dealer, located at 2241 East Baldwin Road. Shopping for a garage, portable building, cabin? We build them anywhere from 8 to 16 foot wide, 10 feet to 60 feet long. We can do insulation, electricity, transom dormers, thermal windows. Come, let's customize a building together. Rick Vossen, Stormore Portable Building Dealer, Panama City.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Call in with your questions, hot takes, and rants at 850-215-6290.
I'm sure that most of you have used a dial telephone before.
The Sports Talk Monster.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
I was thinking we might get a little cult of personality coming in there, but we're going to save that for the end because
some yellow showdown.
Yeah, there we go. We got a showdown coming up here. We had the clash at the castle. You are listening to the Afternoon Underdogs. Brian Haddad sitting in for David Hayes. And I got the guys again. An hour wasn't enough on Friday. We had to cap it off here.
No.
We've got Monty and the Pharaoh back with us. How we doing, gentlemen?
What's up? What's up, Mikey?
And you two guys.
Yeah, and us two guys.
Listen, first I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity every week to come on and embarrass myself in front of the whole state of Florida. So clearly, I know nothing about pro wrestling. I just better let my partner speak moving forward.
I was going to say, I didn't know who had a worse weekend for predictions, you or me. It was rough.
4 out of 5 ain't bad. I did okay. I mean, yikes. But who cares? It's a scripted show. Will you guys stop it? Would you please?
All right. I want to give the results of the show for those who didn't watch it, but I've definitely got some bigger questions for you guys about it. So Cody Rhodes beats AJ Styles in the I Quit match, which was, I said I haven't loved I Quit matches. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Took a little weird turn there at the end, but I think we all had Cody winning, so that was fine.
Yeah.
The shock of the night, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn taking the tag belt, so that we'll get into why maybe that shouldn't have been such a shock
We're all
later.
equally dopey on that one. Go
That's
ahead.
right. Now we start to separate ourselves.
Okay.
Sami Zayn beats Chad Gable in that. I think I had Chad, and I think Mike did as well. I can't remember where you were
I
on
said
that
Sammy was the safe bet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bailey
Big
beats
deal.
Bailey beats Piper Niven. Probably what we thought. Piper got a nice ovation at the end, which I thought was deserved. It wasn't a match. Sometimes you think that's a match that'll stand out because Bailey's so good, but they had some big spots in that actually worked out really well.
They did.
And then the match of the night, we all thought the headliner, Damian Priest, takes the victory, although being pinned for about 15 seconds.
Right.
Over Drew McIntyre because of nefarious means by that dastardly CM Punk. Guys, overall, I mean, we talked about this isn't one of the big four shows, but 5 matches, 3 hours, Saturday afternoon. What's your overall take on the show?
Good stuff. I enjoyed it. It was crash, bang, boom, and see you later. You know, all the matches were good. Serviceable, quick, compact, like I had said on the Friday show, compact card. I was pleased. Had a great time watching it with the wife. We had a great time arguing about Vince McMahon for about 2 hours, but that's okay, you know, back and forth. But it was great. It was great. Great show. Enjoyed it. What about you, Mike?
I think these out of the United States shows, no matter what they put on, these crowds are so hot.
Yeah.
You can't help but enjoy it. It's like, you know what? The good old US of A better step it up, man, because these crowds are off the hook.
They really are. I mean, this one they had some chance. It wasn't as psychotic as France, let's say,
Right.
or maybe Puerto Rico last year, but
Right.
they were just as into their wrestling, and certainly giving them 3 Scottish matches with Scottish talent in it, I'm sure helped. But
smart.
very smart, because last year, of course, a lot of them weren't able to go to Wales or weren't taken to Wales.
Right.
But certainly, I think that was good. What was a match or maybe a moment that stood out to you? I mean, outside of, we're going to get into Punk Drew a little bit in just a minute, but maybe something that stood out to you on the show that surprised you or maybe let you down a little bit, if you will.
Oh, surprised me. It's pretty obvious. It was the result of the tag match. When the referee hit 3, I leaped out of my chair. Karen must have been laughing, like, look at that mark. I mean, I literally jumped. I was like, are you serious? Are you serious that this just happened? And I thought about all 3 of us being like, well, this is the foregone conclusion match.
Yeah.
You know, but that's another thing too. You know, obviously, old school stuff. Look, Triple H doesn't think exactly like Vince. There's times where you can see that he does, and he was influenced by Vince. And there's other times you can see he's different from Vince. And there were several examples over the night.
That's right.
That showed Triple H's differences. You know, I think we're in really good hands. The show is really well presented and written.
I'm going to pick that same match, but the first thing I thought, because the one thing I am always positive about is one title change only.
Yeah.
So instantly I said, well, me and Coach are wrong. Jimmy's walking through the rest of this, and boy, did we get this all wrong. So I was in shock. And I don't know where they're going with Belair and Cargill now. It's like, it made no sense to me, honestly. I didn't get it. I did not get it.
I will say this. I mentioned this to Jimmy earlier today when we spoke. I love storytelling. Like, I hate it when just something comes out of nowhere and there's no reason for it and it's a shock. That just seems cheap to me. What I love is storytelling where something shocking happens. You're like, I should have seen that.
We should have seen
I think we all should have seen it when they added the third team.
Right. We should have seen it.
Because that's a wrestling staple. Now the champions don't have to be pinned. I am a little bit with you, Mike, in that I'm not sure where they go. I don't know if they're necessarily trying to accelerate it. Maybe it's just something they did for the Scottish crowd because they knew they weren't going to have Drew go over and Belair and Jade get it back, and then, but you know, there's little cracks. The fact that they were mentioning that Jade was tapping to me, I think plays in. But I thought it was a nice moment, particularly Alba Fire, who had gone through some things in her life, but a little confusing. But I did love the fact that I should have seen it coming and I didn't.
Well, if I could just interrupt, I don't know how you could have seen it coming. I got to be honest with you. They lost all the way through nonstop. You've got this awesome team. You just cut the legs out of, we were just calling them on Friday the Road Warriors.
That's right.
Of the women's division. They just cut their legs out for a moment. Everything you said makes all the sense in the world. Everything Jimmy says makes all the sense in the world. But in reality, this is a team that can't win. And then now they can be beaten by anyone. And again, the whole ultimate goal here is Cargill, with her match with Belair, where do you go from here?
Yeah. I did appreciate this. We said Road Warriors and all that. They actually made some mention to that. If you listen to the as they brought him to the ring, they had a little spiky, and they were alluding to, do we remember a team that used to come out with spikes and shoulder pads and all?
I think the whole thing.
Clearly, they're listening to us here.
Well, they probably are, but they're clearly not listening to my smirk, which is the face I made when you guys mentioned the Road Warriors and them in the same sentence last week. I'm like, get out of here. How the heck are they even in the same sentence as the Road Warriors? I don't want to hear it. By the way the decision was done, Mike said now they can lose to anyone. That's the cleverness of the triple threat booking. Were either one of them pinned?
No, that's right.
That's why I don't think they could just lose to anyone. That was very clever that Triple H did it that way. Are we confused? Yes, but could you imagine if everybody was always able to predict every result? And that's what I like about what Triple H is doing with the element of surprise. If everybody was able to just be able to predict every single match, what kind of business would WWE be?
No,
boring.
I agree. And
boring.
Look, I think they had to give the Scottish fans one, which. I thought. I thought they were going to do Drew.
Did they really? It's almost like they gave them one peanut out of the can of cashews with that change.
Well,
the one that
enough.
everybody really wanted, they laughed in their face.
Yeah, I thought Piper might have got it instead of the tag, whatever. But look, all right, let's get into the Drew match because this was the big match of the night, and there's a lot to talk about here.
All right,
Damian Priest, that looked awful.
Yes,
Yes. It looks like he's not hurt. Thank goodness.
Right.
That looked awful. He got his ankle hung up in the ring ropes.
Right.
Everybody did a wonderful job. Drew bought some time, played it off. It looked fine. But Damian did a wonderful job selling it, whether real or not, for the rest of the match, and that played in. I thought Priest really availed himself well in this match. For somebody who maybe hasn't stepped up into the big time, I thought this was a good showing for him. I know he got pinned and ended up winning through nefarious means, but I thought he really showed out in this match.
It is a good showing. He's slowly winning over acceptance.
Yeah.
He's not right off the bat. Like Mike's always, I think pretty much, my partner's pretty much always liked him.
Yeah.
My jury's been out on him because I go back to his days as Punisher Martinez. I always felt that he had a strange build. As big as he was, his legs did concern me. And oddly enough, the twisting that you're talking about was his knee hurt worse than anything. He said it after the show that his knee felt like trash from that spot. So I do worry about his legs a little bit, but he's really matured pretty nicely. He's grown into a bigger version of himself than he was early on with Punisher Martinez. He's bigger. He's got a great voice. His voice, the sound of his voice. He's got a very deep man's voice, I'm still waiting for him to round out his mic skills. He's gone from okay to now he's good. Give him some more time. As long as he's the benefactor of really good booking, which he has been, he's safe. He's well on his way. What do you think, Mike?
I love the word acceptance, Jimmy. You hit it right on the head. This is a guy whose title reign now will be accepted. And where I thought, we spoke about Friday, where I thought Gunther was heading towards Cody, now it's clear he's heading towards Damian.
Yeah, right.
And at SummerSlam, it's all over for Damian, right?
I agree.
But when you look at that title ring, you say, you know what? Priest did a pretty good job. Good job. So acceptance, love that word.
I agree. And I think it's given him the benefit of they're going to make another run with him down the line now because of it. And look,
is what you can do.
Roll tape on this, guys, because I probably won't say this very often. I should have listened to you, Jimmy, because you made sense Friday when you said this was Gunther.
Yeah.
And you said it. It was all set up. And I had to overthink it and do whatever.
Well, what's the logical thing? I mean, Gunther's time is coming, and you know that you get to keep receipts when you do favors for the company by not being a whiner behind the scenes and going with their decisions. This is going to be the payback for Gunther putting Sami Zayn over as much as that pain does. He's going to have his day in the sun. It's coming. It's coming.
Mike, I'm going to put this to you first. The way that it happened, Drew's, they do the ref bump. By the way, the ref took a nasty bump before the bump.
Oh, yes.
Good gracious. Good job getting up.
Right.
But they do the ref bump. They've got the pin for 15. Drew's trying to get another referee down. The way they shot this was beautiful. The wide shot, ref's coming. All right, we know a ref's coming, but we don't know who it is. It's not Jessica Carr, but we know somebody's coming. They shoot from behind. Now, other than a little gratuitous look at Drew McIntyre, we get the ref. 1, 2, no. And then at that moment, everybody goes, it's Punk.
Jumped out of my chair.
Talk about not just that moment, but the way that they're shooting. Look, we had 20 years of Kevin Dunn, and there were some good things that he did. WWE's always had great production. The fact that they've taken it to another level, it's more sports-oriented, I have loved it.
Yeah, well, Triple H is doing all the right things and pushing all the right buttons. You know? I also even read, I'm not going to swerve off it too much, but the idea to turn Chad Gable heel came from Chad himself, who went to Triple H. Triple H is paying attention.
That's good.
You know, and he's a traditionalist. You could see that he is just by the way the card was done, but he's also able to pivot to new things. He does not have a closed mind when it comes to trying new things, like Logan Paul's camera angle or this camera angle you spoke of with Punk running in. I had no clue from the original camera shot that that was Punk. So, like you said, 1, 2, I jump out of my chair like, oh my God, this is Punk. That was perfectly visually played.
Mike?
I think the bigger point, too, Jimmy, is that Triple H knows where his strengths and weaknesses is and he's bringing in high-level sports cameramen and guys that know how to do production. So back to Coach's point, Dunn was very good. Let's not underrate Dunn. He was very, very well done. But now they've got real sports producers and their angles. You know, going back to the point where you said, Coach, they went to a small camera angle to make sure you did not know that was CM Punk.
Beautifully
I had no clue. Beautiful cut to it. Unbelievable storyline. And, again, production. Tony Khan, the billionaire, really needs to start going, I need to start spending money on production.
Agreed.
Yeah. I wish we had more time. I got about 45 seconds left. My final thoughts on this was perfect to set up the next 2 months. We've got Money in the Bank coming, but I think they started laying groundwork for SummerSlam here. Very quick reactions to that.
They really know what they're doing. SummerSlam's going to be excellent. And again, it's how you get there. And they clearly know how they're going to get there. And we get to go along for the joyride. Mike,
we gave you 10 seconds. Go.
End of SummerSlam. The GOAT comes out, Roman Reigns, and so begins the greatest story in the history of pro wrestling.
The ones are in the air, Mikey.
They're in the
Can't
air,
say
Mike.
it any better. Thanks a lot, Monty and the Pharaoh. Catch them, Cablevision, Facebook, YouTube, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Guys, absolutely loved it as always. David will be back tomorrow. Check out the Coach James Hale Show tomorrow morning. We are out.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
Well, I got 2 or 3 things here I just want to say. Now, Dr. Chad would like this one. On your Roadhouse comment earlier,
yes.
I just want to, that you sewed yourself up. Who graded the needle?